Juicy co-creators, Lilu here in San Diego, California. And I'm here with you, Eric. I'm delighted to be having this conversation on extraordinary living. What does it take to live extraordinary lives? I think I'm really traveling all around the globe to know and to understand what does it take to live this juicy life. And many people have different idea of what that can be and how to apply that. Obviously, you had... I know you were one of the guest speakers on the Anthony Robbins Business Mastery, so you certainly, I'm sure, bring a lot to the table. I'm excited to discover your work here and really start with how extraordinary life can be. How juicy does it get?
That's a good question. How juicy can it get? I'm still trying to find out. I'm working really hard on juicing everything I can out of it. And I've been like that since I was little. My probably one of the biggest criticisms my parents would have had of me as a kid is that I was always trying to pack too much in. Always trying to schedule too many things and trying to get everything done. But I don't think there's a problem. It feels to me like we only get this one life. I mean, look, there might be other afterlife in it, but right now it seems like we remember this one, and I just feel like we have to get everything out of it we can.
Yeah, there seems to be two kinds of people. Some that are more into action and all the time go, and some others that are holding back and not really taking action. Is that something that you see? Because I hear a lot of people too. They're saying, "Well, I feel lazy. I have all these dreams, but never take action." So sometimes too much action kills the action, and not enough, of course, doesn't make things happen.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think the first thing we have to remember is that for some people to live a very juicy life is not about action. Some people, a juicy life is a lot of quiet time and a lot of introspection and quiet enjoyment. But more to the point of why people don't live their dreams, it's really interesting. I'm a big believer that our happiness and fulfillment in life is driven by the ability to overcome what I think of as outdated software. Like, here's the thing. We evolved over, a 5-6 million year process. And for almost all of that history, let's say food was incredibly rare. And so our huge directives were to do the least amount of effort possible to eat the maximum amount of food we could. Now, for the last 6 million years, that's been really useful because there's been hardly any food around. And so you had to be lazy. You had to rest when you could and exercise. Now you can be lazy all the time and have all your needs met, and so people are getting lazy. And if you're not driven by something, if it's whatever that hunger is, whether it's food or a mate or just some fulfillment or personal growth, if you're not driven, then you don't get anywhere.
Because I remember in the movie The Secret, there's a lot on around the law of attraction and of just sitting there and feeling it. But I think sometimes we don't emphasize enough on the action portion.
Do you know, I often comment on that. So you mentioned Tony. He had a big influence on me as a young man and continues to. And it's interesting because when I'm often on stage, I'll say to people, let's think about the human potential movement or personal development as having like a left wing and a right wing, like politics. So on the right wing, it's like pure action journey. So young Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and all that kind of stuff. And then on the left side, it's like Wayne Dyer and Abraham Hicks, and it's way out there. Like it's all and. What I think happened with the movie The Secret, and it was filmed here with a lot of these people, what happened with the movie The Secret is there's a lot of editing, and the parts that were edited out were all from the right side of that game. And so what was left with this impression of the left side, that it's purely about energy and purely about manifestation and visualization, and the reality is that, at least for me, that truly extraordinary living comes from having one foot in each camp. You have to be prepared to take action. You have to know when to take action. You've got to be good and skilled at taking action. But also, you also have to be a spiritual being. It's meditation, quiet time, introspection, reflection, all have to be part of it too. But I think if you're pure action, then you're going to burn out. If you're pure meditation, you're just, nothing's going to happen.
So how do you break it down? Is there some things as principles to get clarity, to gain clarity on how extraordinary our life can be? Because I guess we're all individuals. We have unique talents, we have uniqueness, and yet we're all the same and have common needs and common things that we want to live, such as love and be fulfilled. And so how does that work?
Okay, I think one of the key things we have to remember is that everybody is different. And so, while some people are more creative and other people are more detail-oriented, and some people are more extroverted and some people are more introverted, and you've got all these different personality types, the challenge is that in our society, what happens is that, when people ask, what do? It's what you're being paid to do. It's not who you are. It's not what you love. It's what you're good at earning money doing. So here's a good example. When you go to school, if you've got one subject you're doing really well in and you've got one subject doing really badly in, then the teacher says you have to put more effort in the one you're doing badly at. Now, I'm thinking that's not so useful. I want to put more effort in the thing I'm already good at. I'm not saying I don't have to have wider skills, but by focusing on what is my nature, what I love to do, I'm going to be happier. And here's the thing, too. If you can figure out how to make money doing what you love doing, then that's like getting an extra 8 hours of life every day, and it makes life interesting. Whereas for most people, especially in America, I mean, people put vast sections of their life on hold to work in order to get their dreams. By the time they retire, they're too tired to live their dreams.
How do you make that shift when you know that there is something that you love doing and you could feel it, but you have a hard time figuring out how to make money about that, and you have this other job that you're really good at and you know that this will pay the bill and more? What's the transition? What do you recommend to people?
You know, it's very difficult to say this, but one is to trust, and the other one is to let go of the need for certainty. Certainty is a falsity anyway. The idea that there is any certainty is, we're sitting on a rock that's hurling through space at 65,000 miles an hour with there's no certainty of anything. So the reason somebody won't quit their secure, well-paid job to take a risk is that they have some attachment to certainty. And what I would say is the first thing is that you have to let go of that certainty so that and trust in yourself and trust in life that it's going to work, and then take action. Now, for some people that are maybe less risk averse, they can do that in one go. They can just quit their job, start the next thing. For other people, it's that they need to just start slowly. And the trouble is that there's television, there's distraction, there's bubble gum for the brain. And what people really need to realize is that what the average American watches, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 hours of TV a night. Can you imagine if the average person just took one of those nights and worked diligently on something that they were passionate about, that they really had a mission for? Then pretty soon they'd have to do that 2 nights, and pretty soon they'd have to do that 3 nights, and then pretty soon they'd have to quit their job because they'd have a new career, and a career with something that was like about their heart.
So how do you find out what you really love? I know the question sounds a bit stupid, but most of us, we just go through life and we don't really know. There's many things that we love and we enjoy playing with a little kid, for example, or gardening or taking pictures. But how do we make a living at that and letting go of this old job that is paying right now the bill? It's such a deep conversation. I feel that it's totally about the paradigm shift, really. That's how it feels to me. It's this quantum leap sometimes that is needed to do.
It is difficult. There's it isn't for some people it is. Other people, they just know their calling. For example, people who are performers, like natural performers, often it's so easy to tell what they like. Probably something happened when they were 4 years old. They burped and everybody laughed, and then they became a comedian. From that moment, they just loved the sound of laughter, and they knew that was their calling. But a lot of people don't have that event. They don't have that moment that turns them on and says, this is what I love to do. One of the ways I like to think about it is don't think about the actual task, like what job should I have, but think about more the purpose or the being. So, like for example, if somebody's very creative, then the more of their life they can spend just creating stuff is useful. So don't think, well, should I be a writer or author or screenwriter? Don't worry about that at the moment. Just realize that the more often you're able to express creativity, the happier you're going to be. And other people that are really interested in, that just have a sense of timing and flow and that kind of stuff, well, then maybe they should be doing something that takes advantage of that. Like some people, it drives me crazy, but some people just love like investing in property, buying this house low and refurbishing it and selling it on high. Just not my thing. But there are some people that are just so unbelievably good at it. Where this gets interesting is that people sign up for how to get rich quick courses and all this kind of stuff. And the reality is most times the course they're going to is teaching them a strategy that's not similar to who they are. And so then they think the course didn't work. What didn't work was that they weren't playing in their nature. And it's the simplest way to answer your question is this. If you would be willing to do it for free, then it's your passion. Now, here's the kicker, though, is that that's exactly what ends up happening is that, ask your average speaker. You've got all these speakers here, right? If you can get to them directly and say, hey, could you come speak to my conference? They're like, yeah, I'll be there in 2 minutes. That's why they have to have an agent. Because you're willing to do it for free doesn't mean you should be doing it for free. In fact, the thing you're willing to do for free should often be the thing that can bring you the greatest financial reward. But that's a tricky thing for people it's a tricky transition for people to make.
I know it's one of your favorite topics on this financial freedom. So and a lot of people we heard of you have to create passive income, multiple passive income. And what is your view on financial freedom? Because I know in America it's a big conversation. The debt conversation is huge, and it feels like people are in hamster wheel, and you have to do this life, and you have to produce, and you have to work, otherwise, and then you're living this life of fear. How do you break free from this cycle?
It's a big thing in America, and frankly, the whole kind of westernized world is facing this. And I think about it a lot because we are on that kind of hamster wheel as a population. It's almost, frankly, like some sort of advanced form of slavery. I mean, most people are working to just barely afford the food that they need to eat and their mortgage payment, and then they might slide into their retirement. And that's the American dream in some form, and I don't agree with it. And I believe that the answer to this is to recognize that there's almost a conditioning layer. We've almost been taught that that's how to live. Here's what I mean. Let's say you're a screenwriter and you want to write a movie for Hollywood. Are you going to write a movie that would appeal to the very wealthy, or are you going to write a movie that would appeal to the really poor? Probably you're going to appeal to the poor because most people are poor. So that's your largest market. Those are the people, more people could buy your movie. So that's who you're going to write for. Okay, so if you're writing for people who are not financially abundant, then are you going to make the good guys rich or the bad guys rich? Well, what's going to happen is that you're going to make the bad guys rich because I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you make the good guys rich, then all the people that are sitting in their chairs that bought tickets to be at that movie are going, yeah, the bad guys are evil. That's what's going on. That's what's wrong with the world. So it starts to make them comfortable with not having excess money. So in a sense, if you think, like I think in one of the Spider-Man movies, you have Spider-Man's uncle sitting at the kitchen room table with him, and he says to Peter Parker, he's not in his Spider-Man uniform, and he says, Peter, I know we're poor, but at least we're honest. Well, what he's saying is that it's the rich people are dishonest. And so everyone in the audience at that point says, yeah, I get that. I associate with that.
Yes, we have one of those, but we continue because we're living this juicy life, and there is no way this is going to stop us.
We're having dinner at Miramar tonight. We have to take our passports and see the planes, and I don't think Tom Cruise will be there. But
I would love to interview him too. Well, so let's continue where we were at. It just switched off because of this plane.
The short version of what I'm saying is that the way our world works right now is that the media is really designed to appeal to the masses, and the masses are not wealthy. And so the media perpetuates this idea that having money is bad, having money is wrong, having money is evil. And that it happens all the time. All the movies, the bad guy's always wealthy. And so what that does, it begins to teach us that we shouldn't be wealthy. And so it's funny, I have this one talk that I called The Defense Against the Dark Arts. It's a little joke on the Harry Potter thing. But in a sense, what I'm saying is the dark arts are, the forces that be that are holding us down psychologically, that are saying that, you're a better person if you're poor. You're not a better person if you're poor. You're not a better person if you're rich. That has nothing to do with it. Money simply makes you more of what you already are. So if you're a wonderful, loving, amazing, generous person and you have lots and lots of money, then you're going to be able to do more with that stuff. It's to me, it's that simple.
And the debt solve it by itself. How do you change that and start?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are strategies that people need to employ to actually deal specifically with that. I love this.
It's not just a mindset.
No, I mean, it actually, it's both, because you can give somebody just the strategies, but unless they also deal with the mindset, then they'll sabotage themselves. So what'll happen is just like a diet. You tell somebody to, they have to pay off all their debt, and if they don't remember one special key about paying off their debt, and I'll share it in a second, if they don't remember that one key, then what they'll do is every month they'll take all of their extra money and they'll put it toward their credit card, and they'll try to pay down their debt, and they'll try to pay down their debt, and it'll be a bit like being on a diet. Eventually they'll feel like they're starving, and then they'll forget about it, and then they'll walk into a card with their credit card and walk into a store with their credit card, bam, and they'll blow it all again. The key thing that they need to do to recognize, to not do that is it's two things, is get the psychology right, but the other one is to remember, don't do it like a diet. Don't do it like starvation. You still have to take care of yourself. You still gotta, go out for dinner every now and again. You gotta treat yourself, even as you're paying off your debt. If you're fair about that and you're reasonable about it, it might take you a little longer to pay off the debt, but you will pay it off. Whereas most people will go through a feast and famine attempt to pay off their debt, and they will live with debt their whole lives.
Tell us about the general mindset change between this paradigm of fear to one of abundance, where we're all interconnected and we can all work together, and we're not anymore into this competition, and we can really thrive as a society.
here's an example. We created a test. It's a software-based test that our clients can do, and what it does is it asks them a whole ton of questions about money and psychology and how they feel about wealth. And what it does is it produces a report that says, guilt is really holding you back, or scarcity, because different people have different things that are holding them back financially. So I did this test when we first developed the software. I had a very good friend of mine do the test. Now he's relatively wealthy. Now what happens a lot of times with wealth is your wealth kind of builds up to a point and then you hit a plateau. And a lot of times it's hard to get off that plateau. And sometimes people actually just fall off the plateau and lose their wealth. But many times they have a hard time if they don't do that. They just stay there. They can't get to the next level. And that's where this friend of mine was, moderate wealth, sitting at this level. He did the test, and there was one question in the test, and the question was, the statement was, to make money required a lot of hard work and sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And he believed that statement to be true. Now, once he was able to do the test, we were able to work with him, and we were able to show him case after case within his own life, within friends that we shared, of people that were not having to sacrifice very much at all, and that were not having to work really hard at all, that were amassing really great wealth and enjoying their lives and not being stressed out. And as soon as he saw that, he made a switch. Within about 4 months, 3 to 4 months, he finally published the book he'd been working on for years, and since then he's been traveling around the world. Life's become easy for him. And by the way, this is really, really important. Stress kills, like honest to goodness, stress kills. And it's meant to, because the reality is, in evolutionary terms, go back 100,000 years, 200,000 years, the people that were most stressed out were the unsuccessful ones. Evolution doesn't really care about them and wants to kill them off. So you allow yourself to get stressed out, heart disease, diabetes, all that stuff's going to follow. So it's really important not to do it through just purely on the right side, purely by action. It's got to be over here as well. It's got to have a spiritual or energetic component to it that's beyond just force.
And obviously a lot of people speak of meditation. Is there some other things daily or some way of seeing at challenging events we could see a bit differently so that we're not as stressed maybe?
Well, okay, I'm going to let you in on a secret.
Yes.
This is a secret. Don't tell anybody on YouTube about this. Okay? Shh.
That's going to be a hard one.
So here's the deal. The secret is that meditation is a word that has an incredibly wide variety of definitions. So for example, when I'm speaking at an audience like I'll be speaking with here, I'll use the word meditation. And when I'm speaking at an audience at, say, corporate America, I'll use something else like introspection, because they don't really want to hear about meditation, and I'm not wearing a turban and I don't have a dot on my head. So what am I doing talking about, it almost breaks the comfort zones for them. So sometimes you have to give it to them in their own language. So really one of the ways to describe this is, if you've ever sat around a campfire in silence, just gazing at the fire, and you've allowed that feeling to just become part of you, and you felt your heart rate begin to drop and your breath change, then you're meditating, even if you're not. Mm-hmm. People need time like that. If you've ever gone for a gentle run through the forest and you find that moment where you don't even hear your feet hitting the ground anymore, it's almost like you're floating, you're meditating. So we have to find that time, whether we call it meditation or whatever we call it, it's peace. And we just have to find time to make that happen in our lives. It's good for our hearts, it's good for our minds, and it's good for our health and wealth.
Yeah. And it's like time stops.
Yeah, that's right. That's how you feel it, is when it's time distortion.
I feel like time is flexible, no?
Yes, it is. I mean, I remember once I was in Ireland. I used to live in Ireland many years ago, and I'd
You're from South Africa.
I was born in South Africa. I've lived in Canada, America. I now live in the Caribbean. But there was a time when I lived in Ireland. And I rented a very nice fast sports car because I was thinking about buying it. I was younger then. And so I'm driving this car, and in Ireland, the roads are really, really small. And so I didn't really get a chance to really open the car up and drive fast. And then suddenly the road opened up into 4 lanes, and I hit the gas, and I'm flying. I come around this corner, and there's a red light there. And cars backed up. There's no way I can stop before hitting the next car in front of me. I slam on the brakes, and time comes to a complete standstill. And I'm able to turn the car, drive between 2 cars, so the mirrors are like an inch on either side, cut between 2 cars on the front, and then come back in, and then cut out onto the sidewalk, like onto the shoulder. I must have gone through 5 or 6 layers of cars before I could pull onto the shoulder. I didn't hit one of them. I didn't touch one of them. But in that moment, that process probably took less than a second, but for me it felt like 10 minutes because I distorted time. Well, meditation allows that same thing too. And like I said, whether you call it meditation or introspection or just that inner peace place that you find, it creates time distortion, and it allows problem solving on a level that nothing else can.
Is that the same than peak performance too? Because a lot of people search for that. I guess that's something that Tony Robbins like a lot, peak performances.
Well, it's really interesting. I was speaking at one of Tony's seminars some months ago, and Tony's seminars can be very high energy, and it's like the fire walking and really and high energy stuff. And so I was up on stage, and I said, what's interesting? I often wonder what it's like for the public, like somebody who's staying at the same hotel or nearby, and they see a Tony Robbins seminar. Like I remember, I don't know, last year we were all in LA. I went to one of Tony's Unlimited Power Weekend programs where we do the fire walk, and Oprah was there, and we're all out on they closed the street down. The police were there to let us get across to where the fire walk was, and there's thousands of people walking on fire. And so I was telling this story at the seminar, and I said, I wonder what it was like for the public. They see all of us, doing mantras and making noise and shouting and doing power moves and all this kind of stuff, and they probably think we're crazy. But here's what's really important to recognize. Anybody who is anybody at the peak of their game has power moves and mantras. I don't care if you're Roger Federer winning from Wimbledon, and I'm hoping things turn around for me to get things back going again. But, if you're at the top of your game in sports, you have power moves. When Wayne Gretzky used to score a goal, he had that thing that he would always do. Like, they have those anchors, power moves, and ways of achieving peak performance. And I would guarantee you that the vast majority of them, if not all of them, have a way of finding that inner peace, whether they use outright meditation or they just find a really good way to get introspective before they perform. You know what? Elvis Presley. How did a guy like that tap into that much energy? I mean, I look at that and I think...
Drugs?
Well, in the later days, maybe. But before that, he had a really great strategy when he was young. What he would do is they would book the stadium, and he would say, my dressing room has to be 1,000 steps away from the stage. No, not everybody else. All the other prima donnas, they want their dressing room to be really near the stage, and there has to be somebody who can do their nails, and there has to be a massage person over here. Not Elvis. He says, I want my room here, and I want it 1,000 steps away from the stage. Why? Because he had a mantra. With every step, I get stronger and stronger. With every step, I get stronger and stronger. I don't know what his mantra was, but it was something along those lines. And so every step he took was an anchor of strength, and he would build his energy with every step. By the time he got on stage, he had more energy than anybody could deliver from stage. So I think whatever your peak performance is, whether you're a champion of industry or you're in sports or a performer, I mean, if you've ever watched actors getting into the actor state, I mean, they're backstage yelling, screaming, getting their blood moving, doing whatever they have to do to get there. And I think too many people in our world feel like that would be silly or something. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what's really silly is living a life that you regret.
Mm-hmm. The point zero, we speak a lot of the point zero, and I saw myself sometimes just really excited at things, and then all of a sudden there was this event that would drag me right back down, and I'm trying to get more along, this famous 0 point to... So how does that play these peak energies and that kind of stabilizing and living a more, I guess, harmonious, ongoing, juicy flow?
There are so many answers to that. There's so many different influences. One of them, frankly, is just knowing. It's just knowing your outcome. Like, what do you want? One of our speakers today said something really beautiful, that a day is a lifetime in miniature. So when you wake up in the day, nobody's ever lived this day before, and you're not going to get to live it again. And so when you begin to live each day like a little mini lifetime, and you recognize that it's unretrievable, that it is what it is and you can't get it back, well, then you start living fuller, and you stop wasting days, I think. But then there are other issues. One of the big things I'm a big fan of is translating our instincts and inclinations. So we have all these instincts and inclinations that evolved over the last several million years, when we didn't have fast food, when we didn't have television, when life was very, very different. John Gray will always talk about the differences between men and women. Well, no kidding. If you go back, I've been with the Bushmen in Africa to go experience them. Guess what? The men are at one fire and the women at the other fire. They barely communicate. They have very different inclinations. And so what we have to learn how to do is translate those inclinations. So one inclination is toward laziness. In nature, it is absolutely important to save your energy, to not expend much energy. It's really important you do that in nature. Well, one of the problems is that we don't have that. We don't have that anymore. Like, we have abundance of food around us all the time. We don't need to save our energy.
Yes. We don't even see them because it's quite cloudy today.
So, and then another one that's related to that, when you think about the inclination to save energy, the other inclination is to eat as much food as you can, because in nature, food was so rare. Well, now, the food is around us all the time. We don't have to spend any energy getting it. And 80 or 90% of the food they put in front of us is absolutely terrible for your system and robs energy from you. So if you ever have those things where you crest up and you're super motivated and you feel powerful and so on, and then later you go, God, I'm just not feeling like it today. I'd just rather sit down and watch TV or something. Look at what you've been eating over the last 24, 48 hours. Refined sugar, starch, processed foods, all that kind of stuff. That has no place in our system, but yet we've got these cravings to eat as much as we can. A big secret here is to learn how to translate the signals. When you're craving sugar, you're not craving a Mars bar. That's not what you're craving. You're craving an apple. And I know that's overly simplistic, and I talk a lot more about this, another time when we have a lot more time. But, that beginning to understand why that's happening allows you, when you feel the need to rest and relax, there's a difference between having a power nap because you've been really outputting that day and being lazy. And we know the difference. But in that moment, we can justify. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we have to apply a little force, translate the message, and take action anyway.
How about for emotions, those peak emotions that are sometimes a bit out of control?
That's such a good example. So let's think about it like this. Adrenaline and fear. I mean, adrenaline and fear are meant to be there. We have them for a reason. In fact, you're the daughter of the daughter of the daughter, thousands of generations back. You're the survivor of the people that had the best fear, the ones that ran away the fastest or fought the hardest because they had adrenaline, right? It was crucial. So the problem is that back then, adrenaline and fear and peak emotions were short term. Right? Something terrible happened and your adrenaline would pump up and it would give you the energy to run and fight or do whatever you had to do. Fight or flight, we call it, right? Well, the problem today is that somebody opens up their Visa bill and they feel fear. Mm-hmm. And they continue to feel that fear all day. And then they feel it the next day. And the fear is causing adrenaline to soak into their muscles, and it's damaging the inside of their bodies, and it's making it harder for them to have positive emotions, and on and on and on. So another big part of this is recognizing that some of our emotions are autonomic, or they're sort of automatic responses, and sometimes we just have to say, wait a second, I know that that's not real. This Visa bill is not actually going to kill me. I don't need to fight or flight from it. I mean, sure, it might be a drag, but at the end of the day, and maybe the best way I can explain this is that several years ago I bought a film studio in Northern California, and I thought it would be so much fun and so great. It used to be part of Lucasfilm and did these great special effects work. And the guys who sold it to me turned out to be pretty bad guys. One of them was actually a felon, like a real criminal. And so I was left with this company that it looked like I'd lost everything. I'd put all this money into it, and it was really stressful. And after a year of being, and I'm not really a stressy guy, and after a year of feeling really consistent stress and even at times depression, I sat down, I was walking on the beach with my wife, and I said to her, I can't live like this anymore. Here I am walking on a beach with blue water. It's in the most gorgeous, one of the most gorgeous countries in the world, and I'm stressed out and I'm feeling depressed. And I said, we have to stop. I can't live like this anymore. I need to start being happy. And so we made a decision from that day, every day, to say, what can we be happy about? What could we be happy about? What has to happen for today to be a great day? And we started living better. We started enjoying life again, not worrying about what might happen. What might happen is ridiculous. A coward dies 1,000 deaths and a brave man only one. We say that expression, but we don't think it through. The coward dies 1,000 deaths because the coward keeps visualizing that death again and again and again. And every time the coward visualizes that death, he experiences it. The brave man has the one. Well, I was the coward. I was visualizing my business failing, losing all the money again and again and again. And that wasn't helping. And so one day we said, no, we're going to be happy. And we did. And we just started living that way. And about a month later, we won this contract to do a bunch of special effects for Pirates of the Caribbean. And about 2 days later, we won Transformers. And then 2 days later, we won Neil Blomkamp's Elysium. And all of a sudden, all this stuff's happening. Now, I'm not going to get into the metaphysical here. Did getting happy make us win all those? I don't know about all that stuff. I'm sure in the secret it sounds all good. But what I will say is this. I am totally grateful that we got happy first before circumstances changed. We got happy before they changed. If not, circumstances would have changed, then we would have got happy, and from then on we would have in order for us to be happy, things have to be good. No. Happiness is a personal decision and a personal choice. What happens after that follows.
It's a beautiful place to leave this conversation, on. I think. Thank you so much, Eric, for this really, really inspirational talk. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for coming and visiting with us. And sorry about all the planes.
Oh, gosh, this is just a delight all the way. Planes or no planes, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm sure you have too. Oh my goodness, my Juicy co-creators, sending you much, much love from Juicy, California, and I hope you're taking notes and getting into action, taking actions in your life, and really enjoying this amazing life that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Big, big kisses.